What's up, guys? It's NFL Week 11, and these are 5 core players I'm building lineups around in NFL Week 11. Let's jump right into it. Week 11, we got a lot going on, injuries, everything happening, but we have a couple of specific matchups that I'm really excited to target. So let's get into my first core play of NFL Week 11. That's Christian McCaffrey. Let's go right back to CM Sizzles off of 10 targets last week against the Rams. It was a tough matchup. Didn't do that much. Didn't have a lot of Christian McCaffrey last week, but that was against the number 1 ranked Rams rushing defense. This is a different story. We have the return of Brock Purdy. We're going back to Arizona. Not as good of a run defense at all. And again, I mean, Christian McCaffrey is effectively functioning as a combination running back and wide receiver in most of these games. I think he's going to do a lot more running and get a lot more yardage on the ground this week than he had in the past. But either way, top overall play at the running back position. Not a whole lot to think about there. All right, second up, Jaylen Warren in the dream matchup, guys, every single week. Whoever's going up against Bengals defense seems to shine, especially the running backs, right? There's a couple of teams. Yeah, look at this. 32nd ranked overall. So the Bengals are effectively allowing the most yards per game to enemy running backs on the season, not yards, but fantasy points per game to enemy running backs on the season. I haven't played Jaylen Warren, I don't even think once this year, or it's been pretty rare. He's not somebody that I normally flow towards, but the volume hasn't been bad. And I think specifically in this matchup, which sets up very nicely for the Steelers as home favorites, got to get on the Jaylen Warren bandwagon here as much as I normally don't. He needs to get in the end zone, score some touchdowns. But yeah, let's load up on Jaylen Warren. I'm going to give a couple of honorable mentions for some value running backs. There's a couple of names that I kind of like here. First, of course, is RJ Harvey. And that's just because it looks like J.K. Dobbins is going to be out this week. And as good of a rush defense as Kansas City might have, they're on the road facing a Denver team that's going to run the football pretty relentlessly at them. So I think RJ Harvey can get there just on volume alone, with a caution that I'm not 100% convinced that they will even just feed him the rock. They could just find some other guy, the way the Patriots tried to do with Trevion Henderson that first week, find some other names on the team to give the ball to. So that's why it's not core, but I really like RJ Harvey. And there's one other name that I'm excited about. If we're paying down this week, check out Woody Marks. And the most impressive thing to me about Woody Marks is, aside from the price, and of course the matchup against the 3rd worst run defense in the league, that's great. But the more important thing is his snap count rose up to 80% last week. I don't know why. In other words, there was nothing about last week's game environment that said, oh, we should play him over Chubb. But what happened was Woody Marks was on the field for 80% of the snaps last week. So it should maybe possibly imply that the team is sort of like liking what he has to bring to the table. But, that's happened once or twice before, and then it's kind of skewed back to Chubb. So not a core play, but I really like Woody Marks as well for the salary savings. All right, let's move on to the wide receiver position, core plays NFL Week 11. And first, I've got Ja'Marr Chase. And listen, it could be there are 3 super stud wide receivers on the slate, and really a 4th is a lot of studs, right? Ja'Marr Chase is up there competing with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua for the top dog spot. I'm giving it to Chase just because the Steelers have absolutely been putrid defensively against WR1s and wide receivers in general, whereas maybe Puka and or JSN have like a slightly less good matchup, but still very juicy, still very, very good. So my preference here is much lower than, let's say, my preference for McCaffrey over some of the other running backs. But I'm going to pick Chase as my go-to guy, and I'll switch it up with JSN or Puka, or even roll down to some of the secondary names like Jefferson, and even Nico Collins, kind of interesting down there a little bit lower in price point. Next up, sticking with the wide receiver position. This one's pretty obvious, but Michael Wilson is the top value on this slate right now. He's 3,800. He's been getting 4, 5, 6 targets a game anyway. He's been putting up 7, 8, 9 points per game anyway, which weirdly is almost enough to pay off on that $3,800 price point. I mean, it doesn't need that much more. Like, you're kind of okay if you got a 10. But with Marvin Harrison Jr. out, I just think that, not that much, but maybe an extra 3 or 4 targets might be in store this week. So maybe instead of like a range of 4 to 7 targets, which is what he normally does, maybe the range raises up to like 6 to 9 targets. So give me a few more targets for Michael Wilson. No price hike, 3,800 on a week where we can use the salary relief. And I'm going to be building around him. I don't see how the game passes where he doesn't see 5 or 6 targets. And again, that should be enough to pay off that salary level. Lots of other players I love here, but let's jump over to the tight end position for the final core build around piece. And of course, that going back to the same game with Michael Wilson, it's Trey McBride. Is there a little bit of risk here that, I don't know, the 49ers hone in on McBride with knowing that Marvin Harrison Jr. is out, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Sure, there's that risk, but the reality is take a look at the target numbers for this fellow. All right, 11, 7, 11, 13, 9, and 13. There's no wide receiver. Even the wide receivers at 6,300 are not getting that kind of volume. Look at these fantasy point production. Look at the production. He's averaging 18 points per game. That's already 3x the salary. So he's averaging effectively cash value against the salary. And again, this game has no Marvin Harrison Jr. It does have Jacoby Brissett. So give me Trey McBride as the last build around piece. Tight end. Of course, like I said, tight end position. I have some others I really like. Kelsey, Gadsden, and we could pay down for some spots as well. Kittle being my second favorite overall, but second only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, guys. Who's number one? It's going to be Trey McBride this week. Guys, that's going to do it for the core plays video. DraftKings 5 core plays to build lineups around in NFL Week 11. Good luck this week. Helmets up, everyone.